Good evening, folks. This is our week 1 live session for Cinematography 1. I'm your host, Professor Michael Walsh, and I want to welcome each of you to this month's cinematography class. It's pretty exciting. Your first serious technical camera class, I believe, in the curriculum. You're going to want to draw on some of the concepts that you've learned back in digital image making and some of your other general ed classes, and then learn some new stuff, particularly regarding your Sony FS5 camera and concepts of calculating exposure, concepts of applicable lighting styles for your camera work, composition, framing, shot types, and putting it all together and looking for coverage solutions, shot design, and sequence design relative to dramatic narrative, feature work, in other words, television. So let's get started by just going over some of the basics of the class. I want to pull up, here we go, oops, sorry. I want to pull up our LMS here. Let's get this out of the way for a second so I can see what I'm doing. There it is. Okay, good. So here's week 1. Prior to week 1, we have your getting started menu here. And let me just emphasize, folks, that it's really a good idea to do your getting started house chores done in week 1 instead of waiting for week 4 to do this. There's information that will be helpful to you from the get-go. The syllabus is available here. That's where you can find my contact information and all of my ways in which you can reach me if you have questions or concerns. You've got your course at a glance, and you've got the syllabus for the month all laid out for you. There are supplemental videos on YouTube that I produce, just FaceTime question and answer type stuff, concepts from any of the courses that you've taken with me. I keep them archived here so you can watch them at any point in time that either you need help with a concept you haven't addressed yet, or you need additional help on a concept that you're stuck on. You more than likely will find it here on my YouTube page. You've got your Safari books information to make sure that you're signed up for that appropriately. There will be links to readings and textbooks off of Safari, so you're going to want to be all set up with that. There is information on how you can get support if you've got any IT issues, like with your tech package, for instance, or with your computer software. There's folks that can help you with that. If it's lighting, equipment, and camera equipment questions, you can direct them to me first. We'll see if we can find a local and easy and expedient solution for you before we have to involve manufacturers. But if we do, there are options to do that. There's a community discussion board, which is nice for you guys to share ideas, concepts, and things that might reside outside of the framework of the course, but are certainly welcome here. Projects you're working on the outside, music videos, feature films, topics you're researching, anything really. It's up to you. The subject matter is at your discretion. Just be courteous and considerate. That's all I ask. There's some video camera setup information and videos here for you to check out, and some student project examples that you might want to take a look at, just so you have some sort of benchmark, so you know what's expected in a course like this. This is cinematography, folks. This is going to be a little bit more challenging course than you've had up to this point, I think. And I don't think that's just my personal bias. I think that cinematography demands a great deal of your time and your effort. It involves research. It involves communication. In later stages, cinematography 2, it involves analysis and writing, as well as shot design and composition. Those two things go hand in hand if you're a professional cinematographer. And I want to give you some marketable skills, some things that you can take to the bank when you get outside of LA Film School and you start looking for a job. We want to give you some skills that you can go out and use to be successful. So keep that in mind. Please do your setup stuff as soon as possible. Get them checked off. It'll only take you a few minutes, and then you won't have to worry about it again. Don't wait till the end of the semester and do it in week 4. Not only is that a bad idea for you, but it also speaks highly of your work ethic. And if you're going to be a cinematographer in Hollywood, as I have been, people are going to look at that very closely. And they're going to look at how you work, the quality of your work, the way you go about your work, how you treat others when you work with them. And all of that falls under the purview of a producer who's trying to decide who to hire for his next production. So keep that in mind, folks. Okay, week 1, some of you have registered for this session. That's good. There'll be a recorded session hopefully by tomorrow afternoon. I have to do a little processing on it and then launching it on the website, but it will be up there for you to view at a later date. Your read and view, week 1, we're going to tackle exposure. So it's all going to be fairly relative to your Sony FS5, where the controls are, how to adjust them, how to achieve correct exposure. We're going to have an assignment about calculating exposure. We'll have a quiz on exposure concepts from your read and view and from topics in your assignment, and then we'll have a discussion pretty much asking you to talk about, let's open it up here so we can look at it, asking you to, I'll move this out of the way as well. Loading, loading, loading. There we go. Sorry, the LMS is kind of slow at this time of night. Folks trying to turn in work, especially at the end of one course and the beginning of a new course. We have a lot of late submissions that are, at this point, very late. Okay, that's not going to open at the moment, but what we can do is, you've had these discussion posts before in other classes. Your initial post is due as soon as possible in the week. That's to allow time for your classmates to give appropriate and required responses to your discussion post. If you wait till Sunday night to post your initial discussion post, not only will it be deemed late, but you don't give anyone time to respond to what you have to offer in terms of topic conversation relative to class concepts. And that's important because you want to be able to reach out. You want to do a little networking. Believe it or not, the industry is a lot smaller than you think. You will certainly run into some of these individuals again in your professional travels. The successful folks tend to find their way into the industry, and believe it or not, you may find yourself in closer proximity to some of these folks than you thought, or you will probably run into them again in the future. So why not start now with your networking skills and with your conversation and sharing of your wisdom. Folks, sharing is really important. Critique is really important. If your work is as good as you think it is, put it up there for the group to take a look at. Put your ideas out there for the group to consider. Share your knowledge, and they will share with you, and you guys will grow together. I also like to use these discussion posts as extra time for us to connect on one-to-one relationships, and for me to offer input or help whenever I can for you folks to be successful in this course. I recognize a few of you from my lighting classes, and I welcome you now to cinematography. This is the next level in your development, and I encourage you to bring your A game. this month. Get plenty of rest. Don't turn assignments in late. Don't wait till the end of the month to start doing your coursework. A, I won't accept it. B, mathematically, it doesn't add up. You won't make it. You should get your coursework done each week as best you can. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't be afraid to experiment. Put it out there. Don't be afraid to be critiqued on your work. This is where you learn. This is where you sharpen your skills. This is no time to hold back, because once you get out into the world and things are expected of you, there's very little room for error. So let's work it out now while we can. Let's talk it up, and let's be involved. Let's be proactive. That reminds me about being active in the course. Folks, there's new parameters being set for how we gauge your participation in the program at large. If you aren't doing bare minimum activities to represent that you are at least involved in the academic coursework, and that includes doing your reading views, do a discussion post, do something in the first week of substance, or you'll be considered non-participatory. If you have that 2 weeks in a row, you will be referred to academic counseling for consideration of expulsion from the program. Okay, we're trying to weed out the folks that are just sort of hanging out here and don't really know what they want to do, or don't have the ability to commit to the decision to be in the filmmaking business. And if that's the case, that's okay. You may not be ready, but we need to be able to focus on the folks who are dedicated to learning this material and getting out there and getting into the workforce at the end of this program. So think about that, and please don't let things go too long unaddressed, especially problems. Reach out to me as soon as you can if you have a problem with anything, a homework assignment, a discussion post, technical issue with your equipment, confusion about what's expected of you. Please reach out. Use my contact information in the syllabus to do so, and I will be in touch with you as soon as I possibly can. Read and view and exposure week 1. Discussion on pretty films. Ah, yes, I think I was trying to open that before. Did it work? Oh no, not again. If you can tell me what movie that's from, you get extra credit. Here we go. So you're going to take a look at some of your favorite films. Bring one up for discussion. Talk about whether or not it fits the criteria of the discussion post. All of that will be listed in the instructions. It's pretty simple. Gosh, look at that. It keeps going to the wrong page. Well, sorry about that. What else have we got for week 1? We have additional topics in week 1. If you're a little bit ahead of the curve, or if you need a little bit extra help on some stuff, we do have a place for you to go. Additional topics inside the camera. There's some stuff that's discussed that is above and beyond the normal coursework, and there's some extra stuff that reinforces the topics we've already discussed. You'll have a quiz on exposure on week 1. Each week you'll have a quiz. That quiz will close on the due date, and it will not be extended. You will not be allowed to submit late quizzes. Okay? The quizzes are open book, and they're given to you a full week ahead of time. There's absolutely no reason why you can't basically do a quiz as soon as you've completed your reading. So if you're a fast reader, you could conceivably have your quizzes done on a Monday night. If that's the case, turn it in. Don't wait. Okay? Because after the due date on quizzes and on discussion posts, they will close, and you will not be able to submit late. The only thing that I allow you to submit late are your projects, because logistically things can happen that are beyond your control, and when you need extra time, we can allow for that with appropriate excuses. And if you need extensions on projects for some reason that is personal or professional, that is again out of your control, The sooner you alert me to these issues, the sooner I can award you extensions or explain to you why you can't have an extension. But either way, we need to talk sooner than later when you need extensions. If you simply need an extension because you can't meet a deadline, that is not an appropriate excuse, and the extension will more than likely be denied. If you have special medical dispensation, make sure that I have your forms so that we have documented that you are a special needs student, and certain provisions are allowed for folks who have disability challenges, and those parameters will be considered on all of your submission due dates. So if you fall into that category, please let me know as soon as possible so we can work this out. I want this to be as successful and rewarding an experience for you folks as possible. So I need your attention, I need your participation, and I need to be your partner in your success. I can't do this for you, and I will not drag you kicking and screaming through your cinematography education. The dedication and the passion are up to you. That's your job. Okay? So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the page really quick and talk to you about a couple of things. We're updating our student handbook, so there may or may not be a PDF for you to take a look at. If there is, don't place a lot of stock in it because there may be some things that will change. However, the student media policy and the student late work policy are in effect. I've touched on the late policy briefly. Basically, material that is due in week 1 and week 2 will have a spoil date. If you haven't submitted your week 1 materials by the end of week 2, that means outside of the 3-day late period, at the end of week 2, you will no longer be allowed to submit for week 1. For week 2, that deadline, that extreme deadline, is the end of week 3. Now, the academic deadline is at the end of each week at Sunday, on Sunday at midnight. That's for full credit on any effort that you present to me. If you're late, you get 10 points off per day that you're late for a maximum of 30 points. And you can turn in work after that, but your maximum grade, if everything is perfect and you haven't made any other errors or infractions, is 70%. For each error that you commit outside of that, your normal points will be deducted, and you can see really quick how that can result in a failing grade if you're 3 or more days late. So check out this policy, make sure it's clear to you in your mind, and consider it each time you are considering being late on an assignment or when you need to know what the ramifications will be. Student media policy is also important, folks. It's about use of firearms, drugs, and alcohol in context in your student films. We should talk about those things ahead of time if you're going to do a film that involves use of firearms, drugs, or alcohol, because there are strict parameters outlined in the media policy. LA Film School has a liability, has a brand to consider, and we also are concerned with your personal safety. And so we don't want to encourage you to engage in any activities that could result in physical injury or death. So having said that, please reach out to me sooner than later if you want to reflect any of that content in your student project submissions. There are times when I do allow it, but we have to talk first. And there's a couple of waivers that you need to provide to me to make sure that you're following, following the guidelines that I've laid out for you. I don't want to impair your ability to express yourself in your projects, but I will insist on safe best practices. We do it in the real world, and we'll do it here. Okay? I want you to succeed, and I want to see good work from you. Remember that a shooting class, a course like cinematography, you are generating content that you can use later in your portfolio class, in your directing class, in courses that you will have down the road from here. And this will be one of your last technical classes. We're going to end our work together at Cinematography 2 a few months from now. But every project that you generate here, you should practice your craft work completely. Any lighting that you've learned, any sound technology that you've learned about, any camera work that you're learning about in this class should all be reflected in your videos. Why? Because it's good professional behavior, and it's also creating content that you can repurpose later when you're putting together your reel before you leave school. People are going to want to see what kind of work you've done in your cinematography class if you're a cinematographer. Experience is experience, and you get it where you can. Okay, and if school films and school coursework is the only experience you've had, do the best job you can with it. So when you show a prospective employer what you've done while you're in college for 3 years, he's not sitting looking at videos of your cat on your back porch. That's not going to get you the next BMW commercial. It's not going to get you the next sitcom on broadcast television, and it's not going to get you the next independent feature that wins at the Austin Film Festival, let's say, or a feature film for a studio in Hollywood. Okay? Professional work will benefit you in the long run, and you should make an effort to put your best foot forward each time you point that camera and turn it on. Okay? I appreciate your time and your attention. I'm Professor Walsh. If you want to learn anything more about me personally, you can check out my bio in the welcome section. You can also come to these live go-to sessions. I'll answer any of your questions that I possibly can. I have a great deal of experience that I would love to share with you folks, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you. So have a good evening. Thanks for coming, and I will talk to you again soon. Have a good night.